So I'm here today, very delighted to welcome Pawo Choyning Dorji, the director of Lunana, Yak in the Classroom. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm very, very honored and grateful for this little film from Bhutan to being screened at your festival. Shows the magic of cinema. Now, even with the lockdown, virtually.
Yeah, and look, I think you've seen the pictures. It's inspired the children in the town. We've got yaks all over the place.
I think that's so beautiful because, when we made this film, we never really had any aspiration or hope, because just the making of it was so difficult. The location relying on solar batteries, that when we were making the film, I was actually telling my crew that we might not even end up with a finished film. So I was like, oh, you know what, let's just see this as a journey for us, a once in a lifetime opportunity for us to go here. So we never really expected the film to travel the world it has, and to go see how the different people around the world are connecting with the film. It's just such a beautiful experience for us as the makers of the film. People might say that they're inspired by watching this movie, but I feel inspired as an artist to create more when I see something that coming from the world's most remote school, inspiring little kids in Hebden Bridge.
Yeah, it's wonderful, but I think you're very modest. The film is it's very beautiful, and it's you mentioned it's a journey for you. So it was the most remote school in Bhutan. Would you tell us a little bit about, because the journey to make the film, as you say, was quite something.
It is, in Bhutan, whenever we say Lunana, it's almost seen with a very mythical, idea or view, because nobody has ever been there. Like, if you actually Google Lunana, you will not see many photos other than our film. And even the word Lunana, it means the dark valley, because for centuries it was regarded as something so far, so remote, that the rest of Bhutan, called it the dark valley. And one of the reasons why I wanted to make this film was that as Bhutan modernizes, I feel a lot of the younger Bhutanese are like the protagonists in the movie Ugyen. They are very like fascinated and lured by the bright lights of modernization and the urban cities of the West. So I thought, why not create a story where we take him at the opposite end of the spectrum? If it is modernization and lights that are luring the younger population, let's take them to the dark valley where nobody has even fathomed of going, and where the most valuable item is the yak tongue.
I think it's a wonderful metaphor. For those people who don't know, tell us a little bit. What does your protagonist Erkan dream of? What would his dream at the beginning of the film? What does he want to do?
um you know um in Bhutan, it's all Buddhism, and in Buddhism we call beings as sentient beings as those who perpetually move. We are always constantly moving, and then the reason why we move is because we are always seeking a sense of belongingness, a sense of happiness. And that is it. Everyone does that. We all move to find where we belong. And Ugyen, in the beginning of the movie, he thinks what he seeks is far away from home, away from the mountains of Bhutan, away from his family, his friends. He thinks that, oh, if I go down to Australia, that's where I will find what I seek.
I know as an
And the thing
Australian,
is,
it's funny to see
right
that.
now,
Sorry,
what is that?
as an Australian, it was very funny to see that he dreams of being.
Oh, well,
He,
the thing is, that's the current trend in Bhutan. There's almost like a mass migration of people from Bhutan to Australia. So that's why I think many people in the West might find it strange that he wants to go to Australia of all places. But right now we have almost a few thousand people living in Australia.
That's interesting. And tell me how many, so you had to, as you say, it was a really arduous shoot. Tell me a little bit about getting all the equipment, because I know what it means to take a crew and the equipment. I mean, it's all very well to say solar powered, but this must have been quite an undertaking.
Yeah, I actually went location hunting, and I was going to different remote villages in Bhutan. But every time I went to a remote village, I wasn't happy. I said I wanted more remote, more remote. Finally, they said, okay, then you have to go to Lunana. But at that time, I thought, wow, it would be physically, logistically impossible to shoot up there. So our pre-production took an entire year. We had a team of 65 mules that carried up everything we needed. So they carried up the solar batteries, the panels, food for the crew. So for a year, we had to basically make sure everything was set up there. And then when we started shooting, we moved up, and then we were there for about 2.5 months. And cut off from the rest of the world. It's quite a beautiful experience, actually. And
Oh,
as I
great.
was saying, I wasn't even sure, at the end when we came back, would we have a completed movie?
Because like most people don't realize, you wouldn't have been able to watch the rushes. You wouldn't have known what.
Yes, exactly. It was like shooting on film, back in the day. We would just shoot, and then when I only got to see, like a rough cut a month later when I came back, to civilization, and and when we left Lunana at the end, we had to make sure, have we got every scene, because if we're missing something, that's it. We can't come back. But Lois, it was funny because when we went up, I was like 50% sure if we would even get to shoot in Lunana. So like a part of me was like, okay, what, if we don't get Lunana, I guess the movie will just end with the three of them walking up the mountain.
One of the things I loved about the film was the absolute spontaneity and warmth of the children, and it just radiates through the screen. And of course, it's hard. People always say, don't work with children, don't work with animals, and you obviously
Exactly.
ignored all that. And we do know who the true star of the film is, of course, the yak. But I was so touched by the performances of everybody, but in particular, obviously, some of the children. Perhaps talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, when I wrote out the script, many people were saying, "Oh, how are you going to find someone called Pemzang?" But the thing is, actually, at that time, it was a different character. But when I got up to Lunana, what I realized was there's this settlement up there, and it's so beautiful because they have never, crossed the mountains beyond their village. In this day, they have not watched a film. Imagine that.
Yeah.
They don't know the experience of electricity. They have not brushed their teeth. They have never eaten candy, so it's just so pure. And I think we were so lucky because when we, like, for example, if someone puts a camera on me and says, okay, you're acting in this movie, act, right? I would suddenly like have all these concepts, I'll be like, but then with these kids, we just put the camera there and we'd be like, be yourself, do whatever you're doing, but don't look into the box, and that was it. That's the only instruction I had to give them, and then it came out so beautifully. And even all of them were acting as themselves. And that scene where they brush the teeth, that was a spontaneous scene I put in because I realized that they don't have toothbrushes up there. So I thought, how beautiful would it be to capture on film a group of children, 8, 9 years old, experiencing teeth brushing for the first time in their lives, and we didn't rehearse it. And the thing is, up there is no candy, there is no pop drinks, soda drinks. So, it's very clean still.
That's amazing. And there's a very touching scene at the end of the film where the little girl, how did you're working with non-actors and you got that beautiful performance from everyone, but how did you get that scene? Because she seems so upset that Morgan is leaving.
Well, the thing is, I once I the one thing with Bhutan is we don't have professional actors, be it in Lunana or in Bhutan. So I had to really cast carefully. Once I casted my actors, I actually spent a lot of time with them to study them, and then I wrote the script, kind of according to them. So Pemzam, the little girl, what you see in the movie is her story. She has a drunken father. She has no mother. She's brought up by her grandmother who's really old. So in that setting, the only person she can connect, you know, so close and who's there to support her is her actual teacher. So in that scene, I told her, I was like, listen, this is a very important scene. And, I don't want you to think that it is Ugyen Dorji who's leaving. I want you to think that it is your real teacher leaving. So for her, she kept thinking about that. And then for her, she realized that if her teacher leaves, she really has no one up there. So it just came out naturally. So, of course, this is a feature film, but I think many people could even see it as a documentary because everyone is, being themselves.
Well, I think all the Italian neorealists would, have been an inspiration, I'm sure. And people who, who have worked, and continue to work with non-actors get those kind of performances. So I think you did an amazing job. I wonder if you could let us know a little bit about, I suppose, for the villages, I always know film shoots are very intense, aren't they? Film crews become like family to each other. I
Yes.
guess it must have been very intense between yourself and the crew and the villages, because you're all living up there for 2 months.
Yeah. The thing is, up there are no hotels, right? So in a village of 50 something people, when a film crew of 43 people come, it's almost like a new village moving in. And what we did was we actually lived, in different family homes. So we became a part of the village, and they became a part of us. It was a very communal effort. They really literally opened up their hearts, their homes, to let us, make this film. And I know that this film wouldn't have been possible without their support. Like, for example, they just gave me the school. They said, you can take over the school, do whatever you want. And at the end, when we left, everyone was so heartbroken. We were like real Ugyen Dorjis up there. And when we left, I promised them that at the end, I would come back up with the completed film to
I
show
wanted
them
to
in,
ask you, have you
you
been
know
able to go
in that
back?
valley where the kids dance around. We were going to have an outdoor screening there, but unfortunately, because of COVID, we have not been able to go back. But the COVID situation in Bhutan is improving now. So hopefully, by sometime in the middle of this year, maybe we can go up and show them what they helped us
Yeah.
create.
Yeah, I think that would be such a beautiful experience, and I know, that they will feel the connection. But it will be a very interesting one. I wonder if you'll document it. I wonder if you could tell us, I mean, obviously, people talk about gross national happiness and all that sort of stuff. What do you think it is that, as someone who's Bhutanese and lives in different places of the world, that thing about discovering home, perhaps when you have to leave somewhere to discover home? Does that make sense, the question I'm asking?
Yeah, the thing is, wherever I go, the moment I tell people I'm Bhutanese, the first question I get asked is, you must be a very happy person. So, gross national happiness is something that is synonymous with Bhutan, and I'm very proud to be coming from a country where we put so much emphasis on happiness. But, it is kind of sad because as Bhutan has opened up, our concept of happiness has really changed. When it was first implemented by our king, happiness was rooted in our spiritual beliefs, our cultural beliefs, where more than material wealth, contentment is what is real, wealth.
Mm.
However, that has changed now because we live in a very global world where sense of contentment. It doesn't get you anywhere, right? But and I realize that a lot of Bhutanese do, see happiness that way, and in a way, that's why I made this film to kind of remind people, because in a way, what Ugyen goes through, the journey of discovery, is really what I went through as well. As you said, living abroad, growing up abroad, coming back to Bhutan, and everything that Ugyen experienced, from the yak herder telling him about the glaciers and all that, that is what happened to me. And that's how I realized, I discovered the yak song, which made me realize what true happiness is. And I wanted to try and put that across. At the end, I think I'm not telling people not to follow their dreams. Again, with the ending, I'm telling them, yes, please, you should follow your dreams, but at the end, know where you're coming from.
I think that's a very wise thing. You mentioned something that I wanted to ask you, and one of the things that moved me most in the movie was the use of song. Was it a real song? And
Yes. And actually, like, this whole thing of me trying to celebrate what makes Bhutan unique is even the songs. The two songs that I selected for the movie, the yak song and then the Rangsem song where the kids sing, these are traditional Bhutanese songs which I feel are getting forgotten, as we embrace Ed Sheeran and all these other songs. Of course, they are good, but what I'm trying to tell my fellow Bhutanese is, hey, we have these beautiful songs in our own culture. We should celebrate them. And as you can see in our songs, it's just not songs, but then there's so much story behind our songs. It's the bedrock of our culture. And this third, the yak song was actually written by our third king.
Wow,
so
I didn't know.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's a very beautiful story, actually. The third king went to meet a yak herder, and in Bhutan we have, as in the movie, we have this culture of offering songs, and the yak herder offered this song to the king. But instead of the yak herder was praising the king. And then the king said, no, 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 you're doing it all wrong. Give it to me. And the king rewrote the song and he said, you must praise the yak, not me. The yak is what's important. So it's actually, by our king. So
that is very, very interesting. Thank you so much. Finally, I'd love to keep talking to you for a long time, but what I'd love to know for our viewers is what's next for you, Pawo?
The thing, Luis, Bhutan is such an amazing backdrop to tell stories. There are so many different stories I want to tell. I'm currently, working on it. But because of the pandemic, of course, we all had to kind of like hunker down. So let's see, in the coming months, maybe, we'll have some exciting news from Bhutan, and maybe in a year or two, I'll be back at Hebden Bridge, but in person this time.
That would be lovely. We would love to welcome you. And listen, your movie has inspired so many people around the world, and it's just lovely to meet you. So thank you so much for taking
Thank you so much. But I want to add one small thing. I saw all the little kids creating yaks in their classroom, and I want to thank them for that. It's really, really, like I said earlier, inspired me. And the yak in the movie was played by a beautiful yak called Naka. And Naka means the white nose. See, he had a white nose, a white patch on his nose.
Yeah.
And he was, this is for the children who have been making the yaks. I just want to tell them about Naka. Naka was one of the oldest yaks in Lunana, but also he was the most gentle one. That's why he was chosen to be in the classroom. And he actually works to save people. So when hikers and trekkers and other Bhutanese people, they suffer from altitude sickness, he carries them to a safer altitude. And so it's a very, very,
That's lovely.
beautiful thing he used to do. Unfortunately, after the movie, he passed away, old age. natural death.
Yeah.
But I'm happy that he lives on in the movie and he touches people all around the world. And now he is recreated all the way in Hebden Bridge. So I want to thank all the children for doing that. I think he would be very, very happy in Yak Heaven.
We'll make sure we let them know. Okay, lovely to speak to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you to the audience.
Yeah, go well.